Hopefully I can edit this into something that makes sense. Hi, my name is Gaona-Wilson. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and this is my story about joy. But I really wanted to talk about my journey with joy, because I don't necessarily think it's a destination all the time. I think it's part of a journey, and I really love having topics surrounding joy, and I think it's important to center joy, especially in like Black, queer, and disabled narratives. I think joy is powerful. I think it subversives. I think a tool against depression. I think the best and most impactful stories and things we have for each other is joy and love. But especially for this showcase, I wanted to talk about what does it mean when your life hasn't been the most joyous, especially considering the different marginalized identities that we're working with, where you're struggling to cultivate joy now, especially as an adult. The systems that put a lot of effort to make sure that you and I are too miserable to be joyful. And I know that's on purpose. So how do you go about finding and cultivating joy in a world that doesn't really care for you? Joy is hard for me. I had a lot of trouble with this one. Joy is comfort and it's love, and these are still relatively new experiences for me. When I think a lot of people think about joy, they think about their childhoods, but what do you do when yours wasn't particularly joyful? It feels like joy is very inconsistent these days, a little sparse. There's contentment, and that's good, and I think there's a certain kind of joy in contentment, but to me, joy, just joy by itself, feels bubbly. It feels light, almost like champagne. Joy is childlike. It's laughing until you cry. Joy is harder for me, I think, than the average person. I want it to be easy. I'm not purposely creating misery for myself. Now I know that joy will come again. It comes in waves. I don't want to necessarily write from that perspective, at least not today. I think what prevented me from really embracing joy for a long time was this framework that's sold to us a lot of times that joy is absent from sadness when they exist in a very similar place for me. I don't think it should, but for me it definitely does. Especially with PTSD, sometimes what happens is when you experience positive emotions, especially if those positive emotions threaten the people around you, they can be paired with a negative emotion like stress or fear or traumatic incidents. What ends up happening for me as an adult is that joy often stings. I don't want it to, but it does. I'm grateful for the joyful moments, but joy is a complicated thing for me because I know each time I have a joyful moment, I am going to get a flashback that ruins my day. So the two have to coexist, or else there won't be joy to find. And I know all the science behind it. Your brain does it for a reason. It's survival. Joy stings, especially when in those moments of experiencing joy and experiencing gender euphoria or found family or safety. Joy in those moments can be heartbreaking because suddenly you're experiencing something that you've never felt before, and you realize in that moment you've never felt it before, and the grief of knowing that while this moment is joyful, everything previous to it should have been, and it wasn't. And that's been a lot of my experience in joy, and having to find it a lot as an adult, which takes a lot more time and planning and resources. Because I can't just go on a field trip. I have to budget and plan and make accommodations for myself, especially as a disabled person, and making sure that I'm safe there as well. And I've also learned that joy isn't an immediate thing, that trying to seek long-term joy is a job in of itself. It isn't an immediate thing, which is incredibly frustrating, especially if you're coming from a place with either a lot of trauma or depression. You can't just go from being sad to being joyful all the time, or a significant amount of the time. You have to kind of create that, you have to bridge that gap, bridging it with contentness. It's creating space so that you're secure and that when those joyful moments do come, you can hold on to them. It's not a coincidence that I found more joy for myself when I was able to have agency over myself and over the language I use for myself, and being able to go on HRT and to get top surgery and to be with other queer people, to be with other Black people, to be with other disabled people, to find joy where we can. Because I don't think joy is the absence of sadness. I think joy is recognizing it and still laughing, because it's just a very human thing to do, to want to be joyful, to laugh. If joy can be found anywhere, joy is worth finding here. Joyful moments come now more often. It's a sense of very hard-earned joy that I had to create this sense of contentment with consistency and knowing that it will happen with time. Knowing that it will happen with community. Knowing that it will happen with my loved ones. That's really joy that kind of keeps you going. That's why I think joy is so powerful to talk about. It's when people in power try to limit joy, when they try to attack it and make sure that we don't have it, or that we're too miserable or tired or poor or hungry to achieve it, that we should be worried, because joy imagines a better future. Joy imagines a loving, playful future. When I imagine a joyful future, I think because food is one of my special interests, it centers around a kitchen and creating a sense of home. That home is joyful. It's a house. It has a sunroom and a big kitchen with a double-decker oven, and knowing my friends, my family are safe. I think because I struggled with feeling safe for so long, in knowing the lack of it, finally getting it makes me want to protect it even more. That I know how important joy is because I didn't feel it for a very long time. For me, I've been trying to find it through art and writing and community and making, and not trying to be a perfectionist. I almost didn't make this because being a perfectionist, and perfectionism definitely kills a lot of joy in my life. It's doing silly things, playful things, ridiculous things. It's trying to come at it in different ways, and knowing that because I don't necessarily have the language for it, trying to use art to let it guide me where words can't. Letting community guide me when I can't find the words, when I don't know what joy necessarily means for me. It's like when I imagine joy, I also imagine a joyful future. I imagine a better world. And I think there's a certain power in joy. It not only says, here I am, it says, here I'm joyful. Here I am human, here I am safe, here I am loved, here I am cared for. Because you can't be joyful in places you don't feel safe, in places you don't feel secure. So in fighting for joy, you're fighting for all those things. That's really joy that kind of keeps you going. That's why I think joy is so powerful to talk about, even if I don't have all the words for it. Hopefully my community members will have other things to say about it. Hopefully I can edit this into something that makes sense.